in his 70s. He's had an incredible life, played with all kinds of people. Maynard Ferguson, George Benson, Woody Herman, Big John Patton, Lionel Hampton, the Saturday Night Band, a lot of folks. Ronnie, Maynard
Yeah.
Ferguson.
How you doing, Brad?
So you've played a lot of gigs in your lifetime. You've done a lot of studio recordings. What gigs or recordings really stand out in your mind?
Oh, there's only about 150 that stand out. No, but really, we had a week at 799 A&R Studios on 51st Street and 7th Avenue. Frank Sinatra's "L.A. Is My Lady's" album.
Yeah.
It was a whole week of recording with Sinatra. And sitting next to me in the sax section was Frank Forster. And then there was Frank West, Mike Brecker, who else? Yeah, I mean, the studio was loaded with all-stars: Lionel Hampton, Ray Brown on bass, Steve Gadd, Bob James on piano. It was the who's who of who. Who's that? Who? So anyway, the first couple of days was, of course, it was Quincy conducting the band. And the first of that week, like Monday and Tuesday, it was just the band. There was no singer there. Sinatra, of course. We were running down the charts. And then Wednesday, Frank shows up, and then we start hitting it. And of course, like, da 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 da,
Yeah.
and the band was burning by then, and it was like, we were so hyped. It was such a energized kind of vibe, man. Sefer Herman was the contractor. We even showed up. I have a 2-hour video of that. And it starts with guys getting out of the cab in front of the studio. Phil Ramone was the
Engineer?
chief engineer. Ollie Cotton was his assistant. So, but there were other recordings that I really enjoyed. When Randy Brecker and Mike became very famous, they got a chance to be arranging for sessions for like people like Diana Ross. And since I was friends with Randy and Mike, they would always ace me on to the sessions.
Yeah.
The bad boys from Boston, Jay Giles. You look like you have a big zero on you.
No, I know Jay Giles. I know Peter Wolf. He was married to Faye Dunaway, I remember.
All right, so say so, man. Come on, help me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. There's an audience here, and they're just driving me crazy.
Or are they? Well, okay, so yeah, there was a whole host of studio recording sessions that I was involved in. Who's the girl that? Oh man, because in that period I was also doing Saturday Night Live.
You were busy, man.
Yeah, where did it all go? I mean, all that is gone.
There's no more studio work in New York at all?
Well, no, because the studios are closed.
Yeah, that's true.
What was the girl that like she did a kind of like a controversial thing? I think she was Irish, and she would always appear on stage barefoot. Um,
Oh, I
didn't
know
have.
who you mean. She shaved her head or something and criticized the Pope.
Yeah,
Sinead O'Connor.
Sinead. Oh yeah, man, I really liked her too. Um, well, we were doing her album, and Phil Ramone was producing it, and she was on Saturday Night Live one time, and oh yeah, man. I remember being on Saturday Night Live, and like they had Miles on the show one Saturday night, and that was interesting. Matter of fact, I did. Do you remember when Dave Sanborn was hosting, or co-hosting a show called Night Music
Night
on the
Music on Sunday nights, produced by Hal Wilner. Great show.
right? And so I did it a couple of times. One time, um, okay, I did an album, a track on an Eric Clapton album called Hard Times. I think it was like a remake of Ray Charles' tune. And so I got called to do the session for Atlantic. And do you know the famous producer? Oh, there's Ahmet Ertegun, and then there was,
Arif Martin.
Arif Martin. Arif wrote the chart. So we were doing the horns, and Eric was actually there, Clapton. I was there with me, Fathead, Hank on alto, Faddis and Lou Solo, right?
Yeah.
Is that an all soul horn section?
That's a soulful horn band.
Hank Crawford, man. David Fathead Newman. All right, so man, like about a month, 2 months later, I get a call to do a gig at the night music show playing that particular song because they wanted the original horn section from the recording to be on the show.
Right.
So I got the call to come over and be in that tune when Eric Clapton was on the show. Right?
Right.
So what happened was we were rehearsing at the TV studio, and on a coffee break, I was sitting next to Eric Clapton. And I said, by the way, Eric, it would be really great, man, to come over to London, man, and do a gig with you, man. And he said, well, hey, well, Ron, why don't you come over and meet my manager and talk to him about that? So he introduced me to his manager. A couple of weeks later, I got a call from London saying, we want you to put a horn section together to do 4 nights at Albert Hall with Eric.
Wow. So who was in the horn section? Who'd you get?
So I got me. Of
Yeah.
course. Me, Randy Brecker, Lou Marini, Randy Brecker. Did I say Randy?
Yeah, 3 times.
Lou Marini, tenor.
Yeah.
Randy and Alan Rubin on trumpet.
Okay.
How many? It's 4, right?
Yep.
So anyway, I'm talking to his manager, and he calls me and says, yeah, Ron, we'd like to, for you to put a horn section together. I said, well, how many do you want? I said, what, like 6? 5, 4. He said, yeah, stop right there. Stop right there. It's very musical, isn't it? like the cash register is going on in his head, right? How much is this going to cost me? I said, well, it's going to cost you, first of all, business class tickets and 5-star hotel. So, hey, Brett, let me tell you, man. So we went over to London, man, and being on stage with Eric Clapton, remember the drummer that used to play in the Average White Band?
Hamid Stewart?
No. He was a black dude, man. Yeah, he was on the scene in New York, played a lot together in 7th Avenue South.
Robbie McIntosh?
No.
Rocky Bryant?
Come on. Come back to the Average White.
Steve Ferrone?
Steve Ferrone.
Finally.
Thank
you.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that gig we did in London at the Albert Hall, that concert hall was like a surround, a sense around. Like there were people in front of you, to the sides, and in back of you. So I turned around every which way, and I'm seeing like some really fabulous chicks, man, coming in from Belgium, Germany, Paris, man, to this concert, man. They would come in. It would travel for 6 hours just to see Eric Clapton.
Yeah.
It was out, man. It was like the first beat was like electrifying. Boom, dum, dum, da, 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 dum, 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 dum. Okay, ask me another question.
Okay, I saw a band a couple of years, actually 20 years ago. It's funny how time flies here. The band was Clapton, Joe Sample, Marcus Miller, Dave Sanborn, and Steve Gadd. It was a great band. You've done a lot of work with Steve Gadd. Could you say a few words about Mr. Gadd, please?
As a matter of fact, that band, I was at the North Sea Festival. I was playing had a band co-led by me and Lonnie Smith, and we were staying at the same hotel that all those guys you just mentioned were staying at too. And Eric Clapton, Joe Sample, the bass player Marcus. Who else?
Sanborn, Joe Sample, Clapton, Marcus, Steve.
So Steve was in the band, yeah. But we were off one night, and I wanted to get on the guest list to go see. I think actually it was that night. No, it was the next night that they were playing, and I was like off for 2 nights, man, at the hotel in Den Haag, in Holland. And what happened was I was so jet lagged that I missed the concert. Like I fell asleep, and it was like 9 o'clock,
Oh
10
my
o'clock.
God.
So I went down to the lobby, and there they were. I was so embarrassed. Eric was sitting at a table with Steve and a couple other guys, and there were these 2 women, that Dutch women, that kind of cool-looking chicks, man. And what happened was Everybody split, went back to their rooms except me and the two girls. I'm still in the restaurant lobby, kind of, which is you could see who's in the lobby and who's in the restaurant from any vantage point. And so here I am. I'm sitting with these two ladies, and we were just chatting. And about 20 minutes later, Eric comes back. He came down again, and now I'm sitting with Eric and these two ladies, and so Eric starts to hit on one of them. He wants her to come on the rest of the tour.
Wow.
I said, okay, man. At this point, I kind of like excused myself and let him go for it. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know what happened, but um, so I think we're getting a little off from
Well,
the.
let's go back to Steve Gadd for a minute. You know, Steve is a guy who plays a lot of different kinds of music, a lot of different types of people. Why do you enjoy playing with Steve Gadd?
All right, so Steve was like very popular, great drummer. Um, he had a band called it was the Gad Gang with just four members, with Richard T, Cornell Dupree, Eddie Gomez, and himself. And um, he got offered to do an album for a Japanese label. I think it was Epic, Japan or something. It was a subsidiary of Sony.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was, so I got involved with this recording session with this album, and I played on two tracks. Okay? So when the album came out, they were setting up a tour in Japan,
Mm-hmm.
1986. So what happened was I got a call from someone in Tokyo saying that we would like for you to join the Gad Gang because we think you are an important part of that album that just was released. And I said, well, fine, sure, love to do it. And that's how I became a part of the Gad Gang, which is now 5 men. And from then on, we were like doing all kinds of tours, man. I became a member of the band.
Wow.
And like Steve was he knew exactly how everything should sound and, arrangements wise. And I had my particular function, you know. But it was still loose. It had that loose feeling and R&B jazz kind of flavor, and which people loved. We did a lot of gigs in Japan, a lot of touring um, in Europe and everywhere.
You used to go to Japan and Europe a lot. I guess that's no more, right? Not happening. Going to Japan and Europe as much as you used to.
I used to do a lot of touring. Well, kind of like off, the spin-off of like a famous, successful TV show.
Yeah.
There would be like spin-offs, and well, I would get a call to do a gig with a singer, female singer, Japanese girl, and she would get her people to hire me, Steve Gadd, and Richard T, and people like that, and we would do tours with this girl, you know. So it was more than just playing with the Gad Gang. It was like all of a sudden it became like a thing where like she or whoever it was would like to have us join her on her little expedition.
I see. Yeah.
So what happened was it was very lucrative, and all the while through the middle 80s, late 80s, 90s, there was a lot of work in Europe and Japan. Um, but nowadays, for me, it's like if I'm not flying, I'm not making money. You know, all the studios are closing. It's just gone somewhere else. Probably LA. I used to do a lot of work, you know, do a lot of jingle sessions for the cat that used to do Dancing with the Stars. He was a big Harold Wheeler.
Harold Wheeler, yeah.
Yeah, so he would always hire me for his sessions or jingle sessions. Uh, he really liked me. You know. He would have four trumpets, three trombones, and baritone sax on a double mint commercial.
Huh.
That thing ran. I made maybe a couple $1,000 from that.
Wow.
Uh,
Let's talk a little about what you're doing lately. You just got back from Warsaw. What was that over there? What kind of gig were you working?
that was a thing I did with some of the local guys that I did an album with. And there's a beautiful concert hall in Katowice, Poland, and they were putting on a jazz festival concert. Um, and I got to, you know, go there and do the gig with these guys that I recorded the album with.
Yeah. And you've been playing the past couple of years with the great Brazilian guitarist Tonino Horta. Could you say something about that collaboration?
Man, and with Toninho, I was like, for the last 5 years, I was doing gigs in Europe, mostly in Italy, and sometimes it would be in the Netherlands too. We'd have to get sidemen from Amsterdam, you know, but very good guys. Bass drums, baritone, and Tonino singing and playing guitar. There were times when I actually did some gigs in Italy with the duo with Tonino. Some of the gigs I did on tenor.
Yeah.
So and we have some stuff coming up in November. Well, actually, the beginning of November, we're going to be in Terrytown on 7th and 8th of November. You know Mark Morganelli's place?
Yeah, Jazz Forum. He reopened that.
Yeah. So we are scheduled to do a gig there. It's a Friday and Saturday on November. Yeah, well, I can't remember the dates. It's the beginning of November, the first week. And then, yeah, it's going to be with Mark Egan, the former rhythm section with Pat Metheny, Mark Egan and Danny Gottlieb,
Wow.
and Bill O'Connell on piano.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I will send you the dates. I don't know if it do you any good.
Let me see here if I can find. I'm looking for the dates online here. Let's see. August. So he only goes up to the end of August, but we'll post it when it's happening. Mark, of course, Mark Morganelli had a wonderful jazz club in New York, Jazz Forum, for many years, and moved up to Westchester, presented concerts up there. And
Yeah,
Mark and his lovely wife Ellen recently designed a club. They bought some space, and it's supposed to be a very, very nice room to work. Intimate, great sound, and I'm glad to hear that you guys are going to be playing up there. It sounds like a hell of a band.
I remember doing a gig at the Forum downtown in Manhattan. It was a weekend with Valerie Panamarik on trumpet, Jimmy Cobb, George Mraz, and Larry Willis.
Yeah,
That was a burning band.
that's a very good band.
Boinging.
So, Ronnie, for people who are new to your music, which of your recordings would you recommend they listen to?
Oh, there are a few. I like mostly. There is on Steeplechase. There's an album with the tune by Freddie Hubbard called what is the name of it? Thermal.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a CD that I did with the tune Thermal.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan Blake and Boris Kaslow. I think Helen Sung was on that. And then also there's a good CD that, what's his name, loved him. I'm so sorry that he split the scene. Kenny Drew Jr.
Oh, yeah, great pianist.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I got a list here. Let me go down this list and see if you got any memories of this recording. The one on Xanadu, was that your debut recording, Cuba Libre?
That was my first album. That was my first album.
Is Sam Jones on that?
Well, first and foremost was the piano player. Do you know who that was?
Let me think for a second. Who was that?
Detroit man.
Barry Harris.
Yeah.
Barry Harris, Sam Jones, and Albert Tutti Heath.
All right, so what's his name? The label guy.
Don Schlitten, Xanadu.
So Schlitten calls the rhythm section. He got the guys. He said, all right, Ronnie, I'm going to get Barry Harris, Sam Jones, and Tutti Heath, man. What do you think? I said, well, you know, if I had my choice, I'd rather have Philly Joe. And he was only paying a little bit of money. If I was in any kind of financial shape, I would have given my money to Philly Joe for him to be on the album. Because, first of all, Tutti Heath showed up to the session with no sticks.
No sticks. Okay.
He had to go out and go to 48th Street and go to the music store and buy a fucking, pair of sticks, man.
Really?
Not even considering that, most guys would even bring their own drums. But he relied on the studio set, which was the most shittiest sounding drums that you would, a studio drum set. The worst cymbals, the worst drums. And he didn't even bother to bring a pair of sticks.
Mm.
And that, left an impression on me. Does he even care?
Wow.
And so we proceeded rehearsing the tunes. And there was one tune that kind of stuck in my mind. It was by China Poso. Dizzy did it.
Tintindale?
It was Tintindale. That was the one that I actually like out of the whole album.
I like an album you did for Milestone in the 90s, The Scene is Clean. Remember that one?
Sure, of course, yeah. That was there's a lot of good stuff on there.
Yeah.
Jeff Keezer was on it. Victor Jones. Joey DeFrancesco played on a couple of tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you did an album a couple years ago on Steeplechase that I like, Boplicity,
Yeah.
with I think Michael Wolff is on that, and Cameron Brown and Jonathan Blake.
Yeah.
Playing a lot of bebop on there.
There was a couple of tunes that, yeah, I can't even remember what tunes were.
You had Ow, Quasimoto, Cheryl, Boplicity, Groovin' High, My Little Suede Shoes, Now's the Time, Out of Nowhere, and A Night in Tunisia.
Oh, yeah. I wrote a special arrangement for Night in Tunisia. Instead of doing it in the original key, which was always D minor, I decided to do it in a step lower, C minor, and in a 12/8 manner. Like the idea was, instead of right,
Yeah.
that was the usual. So I had a different idea. Like we do something like. Do baby do that, you know.
Yeah. Did you know Dizzy? Play with him?
Oh, there's a couple of stories that I maybe shouldn't go into, but
Why not?
well, it was it might be not kind to Dizzy or myself at this.
Okay.
You know, no, I mean, you know, we met Dizzy when I was in the Newport Youth Band, man. We were playing someplace in some outdoor concert, and me and Harry Hall, we were the young members of the Newport Youth Band, and we
Harry
saw
Hall's the
Dizzy,
trumpet player.
and we saw Dizzy having a Frankfurter with sauerkraut and mustard up on the hill. So me and Harry walked up to him, we started chatting with him. And when he started talking, I couldn't understand what he was saying. And we were just like, yeah, oh, And, you know. So anyway, are we just about...
We are coming to the end of this. We've spent about a half an hour here on Facebook, a little bit of time on YouTube. I want to thank Ronnie Cuber, the baritone sax player that everyone loves to listen to and play with. And thanks a million, Ronnie. We'll do it again sometime. Stay healthy, okay?
All right, you too, Brett, and I'll call you soon.
Okay, I look forward.